This is part 2 of the 2025 Legion Memorial Run and Gun After Action Report. For if you're jumping in now, if you just found this video, there is a part 1 you can listen to, and if you don't want to, you can certainly finish this off. We may mention some things that happened earlier in the video that won't make as much sense, but feel free to start here and go back to the first episode if you'd like. From 5, so we're at 5. If you were a 5K day person, that you're done shooting, head to the finish line. I don't know completely what that path was. The 10K took a different path. And between 5 and 6, they had told you before you left, there's going to be 3 cash items. They're just buckets, like bright yellow or orange buckets. They even told you they were army men. Each one was a different color. They told you the order. It wasn't a trick. You just kind of had to backtrack on some and kind of go out and around and, go on an adventure. It was just like a integrity item. So you just had to be able to produce those somewhere else. And I forget exactly where. Oh, it was between... Was it between 4 and 5 that you had to get the integrity items? Did we miss that?
Between 4 and 5, there was integrity items, and then there was also a lookout point where they had a spotting scope that you had to try to. It was already set up and pointed, but there was a sign that you had to read through a spotting scope. The one thing that I did here, I got there right when Matt was setting it up for the morning on competitor day. It was lined up right where Matt intended it to be.
Same for
And
me. It was
right.
right. You just looked through it.
Unfortunately, talking to competitors later in the day, it sounds like there was some unethical competitors that might have pointed it away, and they said that they had spent some time up there on the hill glassing to find the sign that told them where to go. Uh, Obviously, I'm taking someone's word. I wasn't there. Um,
And
there
it
could
may
have
not have been
been,
it may
right.
not have been intentional. They may have thought it wasn't supposed to be pointed at it. Someone just left it there, and
Right.
I don't know.
So
I left.
it's
I
tough
didn't
to
touch it.
under. Right. Yep. I didn't touch it. That's just kind of one of those things where match directors do things with the intention of giving us cool experiences. And folks, there is nothing on a prize table. There's no trophy worth achieving through underhanded or dishonest means. Um, Honor and integrity should mean everything to every single person on the course. It doesn't matter which match you're at, but especially at Legion, let's be honest. Integrity should and honor should mean a lot there. And so make sure that when you run the course, you are doing it with a way that displays the honor and integrity that we are there memorializing. And yeah, so folks, enjoy the challenges. Don't mess with things. Won't ramble from there. But yeah, the integrity items are there just to make sure that you caught the extra legs that you needed for the distance. Those legs included up and down hill. So it was a pretty big deal if you didn't get those integrity items because it meant that you were able to cut off probably a mile of up and down hills and beating some brush.
And if you didn't have them, they made you go back and get them. So it
Yep.
wasn't like you could just skip it and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna take the time penalty." You couldn't shoot 5 until you had all 3 of them. And I know a couple people said they did have their heads down and missed some and had to go back for them. And like I said, they weren't hidden. There was nothing sneaky about it. If you didn't see it, you just had your head down and you weren't
Right.
looking. So
Yeah, they were way easier to find than heartbreak caches.
yeah.
I mean, these things were like some of them were like in a bright orange bucket.
Yep. So 5, you had a pretty long haul to 6. 6 was a stage that we worked on RO day and 10K day. And this was First Lieutenant Lauren Douglas Hagan, and he was a Medal of Honor recipient. And it says
All right, welcome to stage 6. On the buzzer, crawl under the barbed wire with the ammo can. Load pistol and make one pistol hit on each of the 16 steel targets from behind the log while holding the ammo can with your hand. It needs to be supported by your hand, no football carry or setting it down on anything. Once you've cleared the target array, safely reholster and leaving the ammo can at the log, move down the hill to the left to the VTAC board. Once behind the VTAC board, load rifle and hit 9 steel targets, 1 hit each.
Okay.
Does the shooter have any questions?
I do not.
And I'll let you call hit. Is the shooter ready?
Ready.
Stand by.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9.
Hell yeah.
It says, in this stage, move quickly between strategic locations to repel an assault by a superior sized enemy force. And when Matt was showing me and Mike this stage on the Thursday before, we had a feeling we had a weekend for us because it was definitely a superior sized enemy force. So, you started, there was a low crawl underneath a barbed wire, like they made like a little frame that they had barbed wire. You and a ammo can and your rifle and pistol, all your gear had to get through there. Once you got under that, you went up to a log. There was kind of a log across the path, and you had 17 pistol
16.
targets. 16?
Yeah.
16. 16 pistol targets. The closest was about 7 yards. The furthest we lasered later in the weekend, probably about 30 yards. And you had to neutralize each of those with one hit while keeping the ammo can off the ground, unsupported, basically
With your
holding
hand.
it in your hand, holding it somehow. So not resting it between your legs, not setting it on your shoulders, not setting it, just your hand had to be the one keeping it off the ground. Which,
yeah, folks, we tried every game as the ROs. Like, well, what about on your, this and this and this? And Matt's like, no, 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 no. And we're like, so you absolutely want this? And he's like, yes. So what you had to do was what you had to do.
yeah. Now I did see some people like try to hold pistol and hold the can. I don't think that was it. But we'll continue on and we'll get back to that. So once you neutralized all those, holster your hot pistol. You can leave the ammo can. You jumped over the log, went down and to the left, down the hill, probably 30, 40 yards, kind of around a curve. and there was a VTAC board with 9 targets out in a field, 75 to 100 yards out to probably 150 yards. Nothing real hard. They all had backers on them, white backers, black paint. The challenge there, you had to shoot from behind a VTAC board somewhere. You could use it. You could set off to the side. You just had to be behind it. The challenge there was that some of it was through brush. And if you picked a poor spot, we saw a lot of people burning up the brush. So that's the stage. Headed back up, getting underneath the low crawl. There was a couple ways you could do it. I would say the only people we really saw have trouble were people running integrated packs into their chest rigs slash plate carriers. If you tried to do the low crawl with a backpack on, you were in for bad news. We saw all kinds of backpacks get unzipped, stuff got pulled, they got caught on it, and it's just stuck on you. You can't take a shoulder strap off. You can't do anything.
The second worst hang up was people try to put rifles on their back. And so muzzles were getting caught and optics were getting caught in that wire. That was the second problem to those integrated, or if people had like a camelback on that was a little too thick or whatever. The 30 cal ammo can that you're supposed to hold off the ground was filled with empty 308 brass because Matt Stennett, he loves his heavy. It was probably fired through an FAL if I know Matt. And so like it wasn't a crazy weight, but it was enough of a weight that like if you tried to hold on to the handle like of the ammo can with your support hand and then shoot two-handed, like unless you were a pretty stout dude, um, that was not going to work real well. The like Ryan, I'm going to brag on Ryan. He had some pretty spiffy pistol work on this. I was pretty proud of him, and he came through on RO day and shot the pistol portion of this um, really well indeed. The rifle is just was tough because those we had a guy come through shooting an H&K 417. Um, it was probably one of the civilian.
308. 308.
Yeah,
Yeah.
308.
Did not do any better.
And he was still having rounds deflect. So more battle rifle, not always more better. I came in there and we joked about telling people, well, if you throw the ammo can down, because this wire rack was probably what 10, 12 feet long and 6
Yeah.
feet wide.
Probably 6 to 10. Yeah.
Right, and most of the crawl was on this like exposed rock face under it. And we joked to people, we're like, if you throw the can and it opens up though, you got to put it all back in before you keep going. But like it's a 30 cal ammo can, so I gave it when I went to go, I gave it a light chuck through,
Yeah. I
and then
yeeted that thing.
I kept my rifle just kind of on top of my right arm, and just crawled like a madman. The gun's definitely showing some wear and tear. There's a reason there's a Vortex optic on that because the warranty's probably going to get used someday. But I hustled down there to the log, and I saw some different people do some different approaches. Um, the only limiting factor was the ammo can had to be held up off the ground by your hand. You can do a lot, and Ryan and I've shot a lot of different little like one-handed challenges at matches. Like Heartbreak is an example. There's been one-handed stuff at Legion and at different matches we've attended. So I just went straight to a sitting position and held the ammo can up, and then just dropped my forearm onto the top of that log. And my transitions might have been a little bit slower, and it wasn't like there was guys that shot it cleaner than I did. On 16 plates, I used, I believe it was a 26 round mag. And I think I went to slide lock on the last target. I shot really quick, but I was also fairly stable. There was only a few of the farther targets that I had to send, 2, 3 rounds to catch. Um, but I was able to get through that array really quickly. reholster the gun, and then go down there to the rifle. And the rifle was one of those that just due to the brush deflection, I was shooting 69 grain, and so theoretically it's better than 55. But when you're shooting that kind of brush, you just need to shoot everything you can see, and then be ready to move. And then even the things that you can see, be ready to send a follow-up shot. I saw a lot of people that they just uh, were not prepared to send a follow-up shot. They just assume that, I see enough of this target, I'm going to, drop the hammer and it's going to be neutralized. And it's not always like that. The flip side, we had, some guys come through that that target array also made it really difficult for ROs to spot impacts. And so, you're sitting there with binoculars and I can see, maybe all but two of the targets. And so then you had some guys that, were just bop, 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 and you hear them hitting, but it's really difficult to track because of the way they were bouncing around. And as an RO, you try to give the shooter benefit of the doubt. But the flip side is like there's some people that, might have re-engaged a target or they might not have gotten all their hits, and we're trying to give them good honest calls. But there is an argument for, like, at times don't outrun the RO, because if there is a question or a pause, and as they try to transition to catch up with like your non-methodical shooting of an array, it can cost you time versus if you shoot through like, let's say this array, there's kind of like two legs that go out. Oop, camera's over here. So there's kind of there was 9 targets, and so there was some that kind of went out on this side, and then there's 3 that were 2 close and then 1 far. And we had some people that are just kind of bouncing back and forth, and it was eating their time. It was making it really difficult to call hits. They're just like trying to machine gun the targets. The guys that had some of the fastest times were the ones that, like, okay, I'm going to go and shoot this left leg out and then go back and shoot the right leg out. And that allowed the ROs to call hits very quickly. And it was better than the guys that were just hosing. So, off topic, little tip. But yeah, I won't ramble anymore.
Yeah, the only 2 things I wanted to add, again, we were talking those integrated packs, running gun, if that's your like work kit or something like that, and that's what you're using, use that. For running gun, I've seen them cause more trouble. You can't get into them without taking everything off. I guess if you have like a split rig, maybe that's a workable solution. I think we did see one guy that had like a split rig, just pop the whole thing off. But now you got magazines and all that separated from your body. I know, Travis Haley sold them. They were like the cool thing for a while. I'd say for most running guns, if it's not a team match where you got someone to get into it for you, it's not your best option. So we'll move on from there. But
Well,
fun,
there goes our Flannel Daddy sponsor.
yeah, fun stage, and man, there was a lot of running for us that weekend. I did a lot of running up and down hills. I think I had 8 miles or something like that on 10K day. So
They're so. Rack that thing so I know it's empty and then reholster it. Come out of the Humvee and find your rifle. And load it. All right, which one are you going for?
closest on the left.
On it. Impact. Impact. All right, which one are you going for out there?
We'll go left to right.
All right, on it. Impact. 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 Almost so clear. 68-48.
Nice.
Next, this next stage was like right down the hill. I mean, it was 50 yards. You could about see it from our stage. And this was stage 6. First Lieutenant Lauren Douglas Hagan was another Medal of Honor recipient. And oh, sorry, nope, that was the last stage. I thought that name sounded familiar. Stage 7 is SSG Matthew A. Kimmel. And in this stage, your Humvee just had an IED detonated underneath it. Deal with disorientation, recover, and fight back against the assaulting enemy force. Mike, you want to share the stage brief or the kind of the way this one worked?
Yeah, so they had, let's see, I believe it was five, yes, 5 paper torsos that you had to engage from like an urban prone position through window ports that would simulate an upside down Humvee. Once you, the deal was you had to completely empty your pistol. So even if you had a magazine that was able to, and like completely empty is not, hey, I shot my last target, I'm going to drop mag and rack it out. I was told you had to shoot it empty. So I was very fortunate, and I ran a running gun with the staccato, and I had a 26 round magazine. So um, I only had to burn 1 round to go empty. If you ran a 33 round Glock mag, that meant that you had to dump a bunch of extra rounds. If you had to do, like, let's say you had a 21 round magazine, then you would leave an unneutralized target that once you were done and you had your unloaded gun, your pistol, you would climb out of the vehicle. Around the back side, there was like another barricade of like some pushed up logs, and there your rifle was staged. You would grab your rifle,
But you
and
didn't know that. They just said, they took your rifle from you and they said, your rifle's been thrown out. Once you do this, go find your rifle. So,
yeah, I think they might have told me it would be
oh,
back behind me. But I mean, again, I might have seen them where they put it. I don't know. I guess I'm not remembering stages as vividly as I used to. Sorry, folks, I'm getting older. Um, so I climbed out of the Humvee, ran around the back, grabbed my rifle, and this was our probably longest rifle work of the weekend. You had some targets directly down in front of you, probably pushing that like 100, 120 yards. And then you also had targets on the other side of the valley that were probably pushing 250 to 3-ish. Now the far targets, um, I think there was 4. There was 3 that were, if they
big.
were, they were huge. They were like full size silhouettes that needed to go on a diet. It just I don't know if I was having a hard time just understanding that the distance wasn't that far and they were just full size silhouettes that freaking big,
Well, they
or
had
if they were
they
just
had
extra
backers.
generous.
They had backers, so I think the backer made them look a little bit bigger than what they
Okay.
actually were.
I just remember thinking like, man, that looks like a Ford Ranger door. I mean, they're just huge. But then the final target looked like a third size silhouette. It was definitely like a third of the other ones, and that was the target that I had to send a second round on. Held a little bit for wind and got a connection there. But again, this was one of those stages that I had things kind of go sideways partway through the match. I got a phone call from my wife that my father-in-law had passed, and so I was on the phone with her while I was on the course multiple times. And then in between 6 and 7, I had a Magpul T-Mag feedlet break. Now, I'm not sure in the cold if it was the cold or if there was an impact or something that caused it. But I normally run a course with 2 30-round mags of like my match ammo, with the gun really 0 to 4 in preference to, and then a 20 rounder. And so I used uh, my match ammo out of those 2 30s and a 20 for stage 1, for stage 2, and then for stage 6. So coming into stage 7, I decided I wanted to make sure that I had at least one completely topped off 30 rounder. Um, and so I was trying to shuffle mags and I kept losing ammo onto the ground and in the cold and with everything going on. It took me a minute to diagnose that I had a cracked feed lip. Maybe an embarrassing minute or two now that I think back. So once I got to that stage, I was actually like pulling ammo. It was the one that had the most ammo was the one cracked. So having to empty that to feed a magazine that wasn't quite as full. Um, but yeah, I was able to get that topped off and then work through that problem. It definitely is interesting to see stages like that because um, like my 300-yard hold is 1 mil, and that was the one stage that I think that I actually used that hold. Now, granted, target scale and size matters, but this match did an amazing job of having a lot of targets at 200 yards, plus or minus 50 yards, and making them feel like I was shooting something at 400 or 500 yards just due to the size of the target and what I had to shoot off of to rest my rifle on. One was not giving me targets. Two was not giving me targets. Six, the targets felt generous, but the brush created a lot of problems. And then seven, the targets again felt at a greater distance than they really were. It was just kind of an interesting thing. I don't know, Ryan, did you feel like that at all? Yeah, you're muted, bud.
Say that again.
So, did you feel like at this match they did a good job of making 200-yard rifle plus or minus 50 yards feel like you were shooting 3 or
Yeah.
400 yards because of target
Yep.
size, presentation, and the what you had to shoot off of?
Yep. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily, you didn't need to be like holding off, but you definitely had to give it respect, get a good position, and not take it for granted. They weren't meatball, just big, big full size silhouettes that you could just kind of point the gun in the general direction and shoot. So I had the same thing. I that stage I shot a 26 round pistol mag, and then when I went to rifle, the only one I missed was that small one, and I think I made it on the follow up shot too. And it was just, and I don't remember if it was wind I held a little bit or if I just maybe I didn't hold quite up enough, but it was a fairly easy makeup hit. But you had to get a good position too. I mean, I enjoyed. I thought the long range was long range. We'll call it. I think the target presentations were um, challenging without being impossible. So so we'll kind of go into this. I'm trying to keep this from going too long. Stage 8, just down the hill a little bit further, but this was MSG Kevin in Moorhead.
Did I get him?
Said in this stage, you are the first one in the door to assault yet another building in Ramadi during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and you wouldn't have it any other way, despite being scheduled to rotate home in only 2 weeks. Eliminate the enemy and protect the innocent. This was another surprise of a stage. You started, there was a door there. If you were paying attention, there was a lot of paint on the bottom of the door, but also that's not, who knows where these doors come from. That's super suspicious. You kick the door open into a room. There's a couple no shoots that you see immediately. And as you step into the room, they had a paintball gun kind of set on the floor, rigged up with like a button they just pushed, and it just, as you're entering the room, the thing is just plastering your feet and legs with paintball. So I got a pretty even. The other stage shot you from the right side. This one shot you from the left side. You had the option to use a stage gun, which was a AR with a rare breed force reset trigger. I chose not to use that. I think Mike chose not to use that. But our video we put up, the friend that sent us that used that gun. But you just went in and went to the different areas and shot the paper targets. Rifle 3-round to neutralize. And again, if there was a target with hands painted on it, you don't shoot those. So pretty straightforward stage. I didn't shoot this super fast. But I made sure I got my hits and made sure I got good A hits if I could, and that I wasn't shooting things I wasn't supposed to. So not a whole lot here. I know Mike had a couple hiccups here. I don't want nothing, obviously nothing that
Yeah,
sunk his match, but nothing. I mean,
it, it
it was a
wasn't.
fun stage.
Yeah, it was a fun stage when when you have those experiences, it's very tempting to grab these cool stage guns. But also, like, it's -2 with wind chill, and I've got a rifle that I've just shot a bunch of stages with, and I know it's running. So I've been bit by stage guns before and decided to just run my rifle. I had topped off that 40 round magazine, and I'm like, well, just my guess, most of these like simulated shoot house runs are, big ammo eaters. So I'll go ahead and throw that in. Um, my stage brief, in being the first runner, uh, I think it was a little jumbled in the load and make ready. Like I had to ask, like they were getting ready to send me through the door. I'm like, I kind of load and make ready, and then they're kind of like, come on, trying to get me to go. So I had some hiccups. This is, last stage of the match. This is probably where my mental wheels came off the most. I did not cool guy kick the door in. I pushed the door in, and the funny thing is I didn't even think about it. I've taken some force on force, and so I'm definitely a big fan of clearing from beyond the threshold if I can, because I don't like getting shot with anything. And so I didn't even think about it. I pushed the door open, and I couldn't really go left, right a whole lot, but I'm standing in the outside of the threshold, and I push the door open, and there's a no hands, and I start rolling to clear the room, and all of a sudden, da, 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 and that door just gets plastered. If I would have walked through, I would have eaten so many paintballs on my legs. But once I heard the gun stop, I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I better go. This is, get moving. I come in, pull to the right. There's my first target presentation. Safety off, jerk the trigger, nothing. My bolt was locked to the rear. So drop the bolt, start working, and go to town. And I think this was the only stage where I picked up a penalty. But then it's pure chaos at that point because mentally I'm like I'm behind because it took me a second to get through the door, took me a second to drop the bolt. Um, but like ultimately at the end of the day, like if that's my worst stage, I was very fortunate. I think on 8 stages I walked away with three stage wins, a bunch of high finishes. If I recall the scores right, I was either high shooter or one of the top three shooters for the 10K that weekend. So, and there is some real phenomenal shooters. Guys like our friend Logan Dudley, another RO. He's a phenomenal shooter. There's some folks out there that can really lay it down. Trevor Saunders and such. So, yeah, very very fortunate to have my worst stage not really be that bad of a stage. So, and with everything I had going on to kind of hold it together as long as I did, my water bladder froze. Our friend he had recommended I throw a hot hand in the bottom of the bladder, and which was a good idea. But literally, my hose, even with the little insulator on the outside of the tube, it still froze in probably 15 minutes or less. It was you had coming out of stage 8, you had a half mile slog pretty much uphill to get back to start finish. And so, at that point, you're just like you're pushing as hard as you can to get there without cramping. You see the start finish, and you got that moto to really push across that field. And once you cross, they unload, ask you to show clear. They ask you your intel question to see if you got it. I was fortunate; I was alpha. My exfil route that I needed to safely exfil my team was green, and then just kind of a cool thing that I didn't get to mention earlier. When they give you those dog tags, Ryan and I were fortunate a few years ago. We were able to carry our Trevor Graves dog tag, and one was given to us. Before I ran on Sunday morning, when I stepped up to the table um, for all the other dog tags, one of the other ROs, a friend of ours, said, "Mike, there's a dog tag on this table you might want to look at before you run." He had just set it down, and I picked it up, and it was Trevor Graves' dog tag. So it not only did I've been running guns now with a pocket flag and Trevor's dog tag in my kit, just to kind of remember my friend, and then that morning to also out of the draw, out of these hundreds, and it's awe-inspiring. There's hundreds of these dog tags from fifth group. I mean, they'll fill a plastic table, um, from guys from across the country, across, um, these different time frames, and to step up to the table right when they had set my friend's tag down was really cool, and I was able to pick him up and run with him. So, um, the gravity of that was not lost to me when I was on the course that I was running and shooting and dedicating my match to Trevor Graves. Um, a dear friend to many in the running gun community, especially the Legion, as Trevor was one of the founders. That dog tag off, and they've got a soldier's cross there. And for those who aren't familiar, it's the boots, the rifle, um, and and that tag and put it there and hang it there. Um, Bring reminder of why we're there, but also of the honor that you just had to dedicate your run to someone else. And I was very, very fortunate this year to dedicate my run to our friend Trevor Graves.
Yeah, it was definitely a special year. The cold, the change of venue. I mean, um, just a great match. I mean, I think we've gone through enough. I don't want to make this any longer than we have to. All the MDs, the ROs. I mean, everyone, Cedar Creek Precision, they all put on a great match this year. If you can get into it next year, I believe it's not going to be in December anymore. I think they're moving more towards their regular weekend, but it is going to be back at the same venue again. So we'd love to see you come out to it.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. This was the Legion Arctic Warfare edition, and the one chuckle for some of us, Trevor Graves, who's one of the founding members of the match, he was from Alaska, and I guess he kind of always wanted a cold weather running gun, and this Legion, yeah, it happened. It definitely happened. So a very a coincidence or something else, but very cool.
Yep, absolutely. So, do you have any other thing you want to add to this, Mike, before we close on up?
Um, No, it's just an honor and a privilege to be able to come back, to be invited to work and volunteer. Um, at this point, the amount of money that this match has raised for Chapter 38 of the Special Forces Association, I think at this point they're approaching like $100,000. It might be more. You guys will have to extend some grace, but it is a lot, and the money that is raised goes right to there's no overhead. The Chapter 38 is run by all SF veterans, and they take nothing. And they're out there putting Gold Star families' kids through college, buying houses for guys that were injured in the line of duty. Some guy's downrange and his wife needs a car fixed, a hot water heater replaced. They're taking care of these families. And to be invited back to support that cause was absolutely amazing. The trophies this year were incredible. A shout out to Kim Breed. He actually forged the V42 fighting knife on this trophy. It's a hand forged and made knife, and he is a retired member of Fifth Group. And so there was a lot of people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making this match happen um, after, some adversity had come up. And so thank you to the match directors. Thank you to Cedar Creek Precision and all the people that made the match happen. And thank you for letting us be part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. We hope to see you guys out at this another year, and it really is a special match. We hope that we were able to kind of share a little bit of that with you. And as always, get in the comments if you went to the match and had a great experience. Share it with us. Share who you ran for with your if you ran, like who was on your dog tag. Um, all those special memories. Until then, we'll see you out in the range.